In today's episode, let's read about the Mesopotamian incense from the Complete Incense Book by Susanne Fischer Rizzi. Namaste everyone and welcome to Om Incense Show with DJ, a show that helps you increase your incense quotient. So if you are an incense enthusiast, consider subscribing. So today let's read this chapter called Mesopotamia, the Paradise of Fragrances. But before we go ahead, I'd just like to tell you that this is going to be an episode that you want to treat as a podcast. So just carry on with whatever you're doing while I give you company. So let's read about this, and we're on page 55 in the book, and it says, The Spirituality of Fragrances. The land between the two rivers had many different rulers, but the people never neglected the use of fragrances. Pleasant aromas always filled temples, houses, and streets. The inscription on one of the stone tablets reads, During the procession, pleasant aromas overwhelmed the heavens like a huge hurricane. People had elaborate incense burnings because no one wanted the gods to think that they were petty and stingy. During Babylonian times, people burned frankincense by the ton on a golden altar in honor of the god Baal Marduk, making sure that the message of fragrance would reach him. While people used fragrances to communicate with the gods in heaven, they also used them to communicate with the underworld. They believed that the ghosts of the underworld loved only bad smells and that pleasant aromas would keep them away. Incense burning was also an important part of their burial ceremonies. They believed that the fragrance of frankincense burned by their children nourished the deceased. Fragrances were also part of everyday life. The Greek historian Herodotus reported that people burned fragrant incenses in abundance during festive meals and that the Babylonians used fragrant salves generously as an integral part of their daily routine. They treated indoor spaces with the pleasant aromas through incense burning. What we have then is a very refined, elegant, and well-developed tradition of using fragrances. Abraham brought much of the knowledge about incense burning to the Holy Land, and later, incense burning traditions developed in Mesopotamia, permeated Christianity. Indeed, Christian rites of worship owe much to Ur, a city established in the 3rd century BC in Mesopotamia. The Catholic Church still practices incense burning during worship, and we still use incense burning in a room where someone is dying and during blessings and dedications. Many cultures have preserved varying uses of fragrances, lending a touch of paradise even to a modern industrialized world. Here, in the land of two rivers, the cradle of civilization, we find the oldest recorded instructions about the spiritual meaning of fragrances and the subliminal powers which they develop when burned as incense. People did not use incense substances indiscriminately. In fact, they were very careful about using them. That is easy to understand when we remember that it was during the early Mesopotamian period that writing, mathematics, the codification of law, astronomy, and many other sciences developed. The practice of magic became more complicated, and incense burning accompanied each magical venture. Magic was common in Mesopotamian life and still exists today in superstitions that may be difficult to understand. A highly differentiated science of incense burning, far older than that of Egypt, developed in Mesopotamia. The culture of Mesopotamia is the source of many of our present traditions, and the basis for a great deal of our thinking and feeling originated there. Let us then go past the beautiful nose of Cleopatra and put our own into the fascinating culture of incense burning in this land between the two rivers. Astrology began here during the time of the Sumerians. People worshipped the planets, stars, and constellations as gods. They considered these gods as the distant energy, centers that influenced the earth and each individual person. They assigned each energy and each deity a specific fragrant substance. Here, we find the incense burning rituals for planets that continued to be practiced in ancient Rome and Greece even after Cleopatra. Mesopotamians believed that fragrances had the ability to awaken special cosmic energies or to bring them into contact with specific energy centers. This is not difficult to understand when we observe how fragrances can create an atmosphere in which specific things can or cannot happen. The Sumerian people were the first to give soul to matter and to detect the purest essence in perfumes, their spirituality. The spiritual meaning they gave to flowers and plants, to daily life, gave new value and aesthetic sensibilities to their lives. The delicate magic that fragrances can give to our lives, that can stir our most intimate feelings, was described first time by Sumerians. One of the stone tablets from this era states, "This little container contains hundreds of rose blossoms from my garden. Each petal reveals a message of love for you." And then we talk about a few incense ingredients that were used during those times in Mesopotamia. Effective incense burning substances from Mesopotamia: Cedar, Cedrus libani. Sumerian name was Irinu. The powerful cedar, often as tall as 130 feet, came to Mesopotamia from Lebanon on the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. It grew in the mountains near the city of Ugarit in today's Lebanon. People used cedar for incense burning in the form of dried, finely chopped shavings, pulverized wood, resins, and the dried tips from branches. They used it by itself and added it to mixtures. The cedar is a stately, majestic tree that has always been a symbol of strength, dignity, power, and vitality. From the very beginning of the incense burning tradition, people wanted these qualities for themselves. By burning incense, they hoped to extract those qualities from the tree and absorb them. The cedar was the tree for magical, ritual cleansing. Frequently practiced in Mesopotamia, people used cedar fragrance to cover up the unpleasant odor of animals burnt in sacrificial fires, placing the carcass on top of cedar branches. For the Greeks and Romans, who also practiced animal sacrifices, the fragrances used during the incense burning were intended to make the ceremony more comfortable for the noses of the gods as well as for the people present. We have inherited many cleansing and atonement rituals from those times, usually in connection with specific incense burning ceremonies. For instance, ancient people followed lovemaking by burning incense. Here, the fragrance of the cedar was to provide mental cleansing. The balsam-like fragrance of the cedar would infuse a room, creating a mood of confidence and inner strength. Incense burning with cedar cleanses the atmosphere in rooms and spaces and cleanses objects suspended in the smoke. It supports self-confidence and trust during difficult situations in life. For example, incense burning with cedar is very relaxing during times of great anxiety and stress. The ancient Egyptians as well as people in Mesopotamia used cedar fragrance to create detailed dreams that could be helpful in finding solutions to critical situations. Cedar fragrance is ideal to support meditation and reflection. Since early times, people have considered the cedar to be the tree of knowledge that could awaken the inner counselor and healer during difficult times. The fragrance aids breathing and is effective in clearing respiratory passages of viscous mucus. You can burn cedar on charcoal or small incense stove. The wood should be dry, finely grated or pulverized. For incense burning, use the wood, resin, needles or bark. You can purchase cedar wood shavings in herbal stores. They usually come from the Atlas cedar or the Virginia cedar. The cedar of Lebanon is almost impossible to obtain. The fragrance is woody, warm, balsam-like and deep. The fragrance of the needles is lighter and more delicate. Then we have about myrtle. So it says, Myrtus communis, and the Sumerian term was asu. The myrtle is a shrub 3 to 10 feet tall. The leaves are small, evergreen, lanceolate and shiny. The brilliant flowers are a delicate white with 8 petals and small juniper-like berries. People used the delicate balsam-like fragrance for incense burning and added it to fragrant oils and salves. Every ancient culture considered the myrtle a sacred plant. Different cultures dedicated myrtle to a different goddess, including Jana, Astarte, Aphrodite, Venus, and the Virgin Mary. The plant was also the symbol for female purity, grace, and love. To this day, many Asians consider the myrtle to be the very beneficial, equipped with very special powers. The fragrance reminds us of paradise. And so the story goes, myrtle is a particular favorite of the angels. As an incense burning substance, myrtle is used in many different situations. Myrtle creates a leaf-like fragrance when burned. The dried berries are similar to juniper berries. They work well for incense burning and give mixtures of fruity fragrance. Dry the berries thoroughly and crush them with a mortar and pestle before burning. You can also use dried myrtle leaves in incense burning mixtures. According to ancient beliefs, burning myrtle and using it in the form of essential oils preserves love and youth. Burning dried myrtle mixed with mastic resin cleanses the environment. The fragrance of the myrtle contributes to a pure and clear atmosphere. It works well during prayer and meditation. It is helpful for healing old emotional wounds and supports forgiveness. because of these attributes, it is a wonderful way to prepare for a happy new beginning. Then we read about Calamus. Acorus calamus. The Sumerian term is kanubabu. This aromatic, spicy, cinnamon-like fragrance of the sweet reed, as Calamus is also called, was a great favorite of the people in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. In the Gilgamesh epic, they use calamus in an incense-burning mixture with cedar and myrtle to please the gods. Calamus, like cedar, is a nerve tonic. When burnt, it produces a strong, spicy, and warm fragrance. It strengthens nerves and is helpful during times of emotional exhaustion. The fragrance is a guide to the center of our own power. For incense burning, dry the root and finely grate it. Calamus is mainly used in mixtures. Then we have about labdanum. It says Cistus ladanifer. Sumerian term is ladunu. The fragrance originates from the rock rose, which emits a resinous dark brown mass from its leaves and twigs. In Mesopotamia, labdanum came from 3 different kinds of rock rose. Then we have something written about cypress, galbanum, storax. So those are the other ingredients that we have mentioned here, and there are a few recipes mentioned. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and in the next episode I'll be telling you the answer to the quiz that we had earlier done. So watch out for the episode. And for now, that's it for today. Till we meet again next, take very good care of yourself. Namaste.